Well, everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Hey, everybody, Cantonese Cat here on X. I posted this morning that there's a possibility of us closing the week with a Marubazu candle. It's a Japanese candle pattern. It basically says that there's really not any wick below or above, maybe just a little tiny bit, but it's not anything significant. And when you see something like that, generally, if it's a green candle, generally it's bullish. I mean, it just basically means that it's going to be a continuation of the candle. If it's a red candle, generally it might mean it's bearish. It generally means that there might be some continuation of the bearish trend, right? Well, what did we close on Bitcoin so far this past week? We just closed at 9 p.m. Eastern, and we have officially closed with a very bullish looking Marubazu candle. These things are real. And if you kind of look back in terms of what it has done on the weekly chart, when you have something like that, I haven't really seen one as clean as the one that we have. The cleanest I've seen was maybe over here around February 2024. February 5th in 2024. Like this Marubazu-ish candle really has worked out very well, where it really doesn't have much wicks above or below. And now we actually have even less wicks. So I wonder whether or not this is going to work out pretty well. You have a very similar Marubazu candle over here with very little wicks. You have maybe a little bit of Marubazu candle over here with very little wicks here too, right? In general, these things to me seem relatively bullish. Maybe a little bit of one over here, maybe a little bit of one over here, but none of them has been as clean as the one that I've seen this past week. Like it's a pretty bullish indication. Now, just because you have a Marubazu candle doesn't necessarily mean you're just going to moon from here, right? It just means that the trend's most likely to continue upwards. Like it could potentially go sideways here for about another week or so, but I generally find this to be very favorable finding. So we'll see whether or not it plays out. I have a feeling that it will. Right now, I think really you're not going to hit any major resistance probably up until maybe around like the 71,000 range. And it's looking pretty bullish from multiple angles. If you look at the 2-day Ichimoku cloud, and I've shown you this before, I think the 2-day Ichimoku cloud also means something in terms of the algorithm. And you can see that throughout history. I'm going to turn off the conversion and the baseline to give you a better view of the 2-day Ichimoku. It just seems like it's been served really throughout the entire bear market. Resistance, 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 support, broke down, resistance, resistance, broke back up, back test, support. And a little bit of a support here. We broke down underneath of here, which got really, really scary for a second. But on the 2-day Ichimoku cloud, on the 2-day chart, you also see that there's a tweezer bottom over here. And I thought it was going to go sideways and kind of ride up. I just did not really necessarily expect these kind of green candle to really just push back about. And over here, it seemed like we found this resistance here almost to $1, right? And then we kind of cooled down a little bit because we weren't just going to break through the 2-day cloud immediately. And next thing you know, we broke down, and what do? We back tested it. So far, everything looks pretty decent, actually, on the 2-day chart and on the weekly chart. And also, if you look at the Ichimoku cloud from another time frame, you look at the 2-week chart, this candle so far is not closed yet because it's just been a week. It won't close until next Sunday. Whenever it closes, it might be higher potentially than where we're at right now. But just look at this candle here for this 2-week chart. Again, it won't close until next Sunday, but so far it's engulfing candles number 1, 2, and 3. It's like a very, very bullish engulfing candle. I don't know whether or not it's going to end up closing a week like this. Maybe it end up getting down a little bit. Even if we end up going down to like the 66,500 range, it's still going to be a bullish engulfing candle for like 2 candles previously, right? And also look at the previous 2-week candle. It looks like a very, very nice hammer bottom, just like the hammer bottom that you had over here. So I think that, and on top, you're also closing back above the Tenkan line. All of these things are relatively bullish, right? On the monthly, I just can't seem to find anything as nice looking as this wick that touched the rising Tenkan, the rising conversion line over there. It just seems like it's a very, very similar look over here, and I think it probably ends up favoring a lot of bullish continuation moving forward. Even when you're looking at a higher time frame of the 3-month chart, it just looked like for the last 3 months from April through June, we just had an inside candle from this big giant bullish candle. and right now we're still above the Tenkan over here. So these kind of candles usually reminds me of previous candles of like previous bull market where you have a big green candle and then you just have sideways quarter, and another big green candle, a sideways quarter. This looks a little bit like this, where we might be at the mid area of the bull market. And I'm not saying that we're going to end up pushing up like crazy like we did over here for the cycle from like 2016 to 2017. I'm not saying that at all, but it just seems like we generally seem to favor some bullish continuation moving forward from here on out, even on the 3-month chart. On the weekly chart, in addition to looking at the Ichimoku cloud, which is looking more and more bullish because things are above the Tenkan and Kijun again, and the Tenkan is still above the Kijun, so this is still a bull trend. But just looking at Bollinger Band, looking at the bull rank support band together, you've reclaimed the bull rank support band, you're way above of it, and you also have a very, very tight Bollinger Band squeeze here. We consolidated sideways for about 4 or 5 months now, and this consolidation is no joke. Whenever you have a consolidation like that and you have a downward move to touch the lower Bollinger Band, and you have a little bit of a tweezer bottom over here too on the weekly, and they've bounced up very, very strongly back about the bull rank support band, you're squeezing, telling you that a big move is going to come, and you're back above the bull rank support band, which means that most likely the next move is going to be pretty powerful, and the next move is going to be up. I don't know when it's going to happen exactly, but it looks like it's loading. This whole area over here where you have a bounce on the bull rank support band eventually had a little bit of a fake breakdown underneath of it and bounce right off of it back above within a couple of weeks over here. Really reminds me of this whole structure over here where you had the bull rank support band bounce, and then it just kind of came back down, got close to the lower Bollinger Band, and eventually reclaimed the bull rank support band. The Bollinger Band was really, really squeezy, and it really seemed to precipitate a very, very big move up that happened really for like over the next 6 months to capture a lot of people's imagination. Because when things were down here around the 2500, a lot of people are still super scared. This looks like it's kind of breaking down, but it didn't. I think the same thing was happening over here. I do think that this cycle is a lot slower than the last cycle. The last cycle just kind of went straight up without even back testing the bull rank support band, except for over here, right? So I think this cycle is a little bit more methodological. It's a little bit more, how you say that? It's a little bit more doing what it should be doing, finding some good footing to go up higher, rather than just burning all the fuel and just keep going up for a few months, and then the whole cycle just end up getting burned out and the whole thing just end up getting exhausted. I'm not really getting so much of that vibe during this cycle. I think it's doing what it needs to do, kind of shake out some weak hands here, shake out some weak hands here. And most people still don't really care about Bitcoin. I still find that this could be some pretty favorable thing moving forward. Now, before I move over to talk about the next thing, I mean, just looking at the monthly too, I'm going to turn off the border support band. Just looking at monthly too, I think we've just been consolidating inside the Bollinger Band. This looks very similar look as over here, while we're just kind of consolidating sideways with a little bit of a Bollinger Band squeeze over here before it pushes up. This over here looks a little bit like the squeeze over here that we have a little bit over here on this cycle where price went sideways for months. You have a little bit of a squeeze before it went up. I just get the vibe that this is what's happening, and also there's a bullish cross at the Ichimoku cloud over here about 6 months ago that has yet to really truly play out. Over here we had a cross in like September 2020, and we end up going up for about a year and a half. Here we had a cross that happened in like May of 2016, and that ended up playing for about like a year and a half. So I wonder if we still have another year to go, maybe a little bit longer, because who knows, But I do think that so far the market structure actually looks pretty bullish to me. Now, before I continue, I just want to go through some things here. I did end up starting a membership kind of thing. I have no idea what to expect. And I also don't know how much I'm able to really provide exclusive content, things like that. So far, it's like $4.99 a month. I say you can join this channel. I would thank you. You get to use some special emojis. I'll try to do some shout outs. I'm going to try to do some like live streams like randomly whenever I can. And it'd be open to the public, but I would maybe pay more priority to, if you have any particular chart requests or questions for me, I'll pay particularly more attention to you, and I'll try to do what I can. I can't guarantee I'm going to get back to you in like the same day or the next day or anything like that, but I try to consolidate them. I try to get back to you on the weekend, which I generally have more time to create content, and I do enjoy this. This is something that I do feel relatively passionate about. So we'll see. But I just wanted to show you, if you want to join, you won't see this on an iPhone because I don't know, like iOS just tricky, I guess. But you can do like laptop. You can see a join button over here, and feel free to do that if you want to. If not, that's cool too. Like it really doesn't matter. I just try to find some extra motivation to to make more videos. Generally, I make about on ad revenue maybe like anywhere from like $3 to $5. So I'm just trying to find some motivation. But I'm passionate about this stuff, so you probably don't have to join. I probably still end up making videos anyway. With that said, I want to move on to the next thing here, which is going to be more talking about Bitcoin dominance. Now, Bitcoin dominance is still on the monthly. It still looks like it's stuck inside the cloud. And it still looked like a very, very similar look from over here on the last cycle, where you're basically just having a little bit of rejection over here on the monthly Ichimoku cloud, and things just kind of end up plummeting down. I don't know whether or not we're like here versus here. I have a feeling we're probably more here because over here it happened about a few months post halving. So I think we might end up still consolidating over here. Both Bitcoin and altcoins might probably end up doing well. But most likely this whole structure over here just looks very, very much of like an exhaustive kind of look to it, even though you did have bullish cross, even though you did going up, but it just looks a little bit more exhausted. I'm going to show you a little bit more in terms of Bollinger Band. It looks a little bit more exhaustive look kind of to it. I guess the Bollinger Band didn't really show that. How did I say that? It looks like around the top. It just looks like around the top. And it looks like around the top like it did over here. And in general, these structure, it does look a little bit like an ascending triangle, I suppose. But like it's just, I don't know, but it doesn't. If anything, it looks more like a rising wedge. And these structures are generally like bearish because it's just basically looking like it's getting more and more exhaustive, and it looks like it wants to roll over. I don't know when that's going to be, but I think like Charting Guy would probably agree with me. I think that this looks like it wants to roll over, and I don't know when that's going to be. And if you look at the overall timing in terms of when generally alt season happens in relations to when Bitcoin top is and also when halving happens, I think like over the next few months to maybe about a year would be a generally a pretty interesting area where you might end up having some altcoin season going on. And one thing is, if you just look at the others chart, others chart is basically a chart that is the cryptocurrency market excluding the top 10 coins, right? So what you're seeing really is that it found some really, really good support here on the weekly chart that I just feel very, very strong about, that it might be the bottom just a few weeks ago when it touched the Ichimoku cloud here. And I was very verbal about trying to buy as much as I can in terms of Ethereum, in terms of Doge, in terms of like other altcoins that I have, like AMP and other things. And sure enough, it found that as a potential bottom, bounced back up, and now is reclaiming the conversion line, the blue line over here. You did have a little bit of a bearish cross, but I think that might be a little bit delayed because the bear trend really started many, many weeks ago. So I think that the cryptocurrency market overall, these altcoins might have probably bottomed and it bounced pretty hard, and it's trying to reclaim a lot of these previous resistance as support. You have been resistance over here with the Tengen for so long, and now we just reclaim it back. These are very bullish indications. So I do think that altcoin season may be coming. It might be controversial because of how things have been, but I really do think altcoin seasons may be coming. Looking at the Ethereum chart, and I love Ethereum, and I probably should not be that biased with I love, because you shouldn't love an asset so much that you get biased from it, but I love Ethereum. I'm not afraid to tell you that I love Ethereum. Initially, I thought there was a possibility that you might have found support over here at the Tenkan, but it ended up dropping down further on low volume. So when it did that, I really thought that that was a very, very good buying opportunity. And sure enough, it was, because it formed a very, very nice tweezer bottom over here with 2 wicks over here. These are generally some pretty, pretty good looking bottoms. PG-13, okay, but pretty good looking bottom is a tweezer bottom. And they end up just reclaiming the Tenkan and Kijun over the next couple of weeks, and now we're back above these moving period averages, if you will. And generally looks like it might want to run. Like if I look at a 2-week chart, it looks even better. What it did really is just that it went through and pushed through the 2-week Ichimoku cloud on high volume, and it backtested it twice on declining volume. Like this is a very, very bullish look to me. Like anytime when it backtests the Ichimoku cloud, and anytime when it touched the baseline over here on the red line, I just find that to be an incredibly like bullish look to it, because these backtests happening on declining volume, like these are non-committal selling. And another thing I also picked up is there's a pattern called a rising three, where it's a big giant green candle followed by 3 bearish candles that are not able to really break underneath this big candle over here. Generally, this favors a very strong bounce of some bullish continuation. This candle over here is not going to close until next Sunday, because this is a 2-week chart. So right now, this candle over here, unlike Bitcoin actually like engulfed multiple candles. But for Ethereum, it's lagging behind a little bit this week. I gotta say, it's lagging behind a little bit this week. But it looks like it wants to like already have engulfed this hammer bottom candle over here. This is also a pretty bullish candle, by the way. Looks like it's already engulfing that. It also looks like it wants to reclaim the Tenkan line over here, back from resistance over here, back to support. So I think Ethereum is looking pretty bullish. I'm not going to bet against Ethereum. I do have a pretty decent sized position on Ethereum. You know what else looks really good? Oh, actually, looking back at the monthly chart on Ethereum, very, very nice hammer candle over here. If you also look at Ichimoku, also bounce off of a rising blue line, rising Tenkan. So this really does favor more bullish continuation moving forward. And like on the 3-month chart, it looks very similar to Bitcoin, and it looked like you have a lot of like 2 back-to-back demand candles over here with a lot of wicks underneath. It looks like it wants to potentially go higher. It looks like it's a bull trend over here too, and even on the 3-month chart, on the monthly chart, still looks like a bull trend. Like there's nothing really too bearish about the way that this chart looks. And if you're also looking at the bull support band, it did reclaim the bull support band just like what Bitcoin did. If you also look at the Bollinger Band, it also looks like it's getting squeezy, potentially getting ready for the next move up, right? So far, Ethereum looks good. What about Solana? Man, I drew a very busy chart here on Solana. Right off the bat, it looks the same. Reclaiming the Bollinger Support Band. It's getting squeezy. Actually, Solana looks like it's ready to potentially even go up higher. And looking back at the Ichimoku, it was initially at risk for a little bit of a bearish cross over here, but I'm not sure if it's going to happen or not. I don't know. Price action is very, very impulsive. Just went way above the Tenkan, way above the Kijun. The 2-week chart is going to give you even better illustration. This looks just like Ethereum, but so far the bounce has been even stronger than Ethereum. Right? Basically, what happens is you have two sets of trees of bottoms over here. Again, these are generally very, very good bottoms. Backtest the 2-week Ichimoku cloud. It looks like it's ready to run. And so far, this green candle over here looks like it's just engulfing all of these bearish candles over here. It just looks like a very, very nice chart. It looks like it pushed through on high volume. Looks like it's just back testing over here. And it looks like it wants to do some bullish continuation here on Solana. I'm not bearish on it. I'm pretty bullish on this look. The monthly chart for Solana also looks excellent. Like we have July candle is not closed yet, but so far we have like a bullish engulfing candle from June. And the Tenkan is rising, and we're above the beginning of this monthly Ichimoku cloud over here. So everything is pointing towards a pretty good direction for Solana. I'm going to finish this talk here with Chainlink and Dogecoin. I'm going to end. Dogecoin, sorry, this is Chainlink. Chainlink also did something very bullish. It had a very nice hammer bottom looking thing over here on the monthly, and it reclaimed the baseline. Initially, it was dropping way underneath the baseline or the Kijun. And now it reclaimed it. It had a bullish cross over here in March 2024. The Tenkan is rising. Doing this rising like this probably not going to serve as very strong resistance at all. And you consolidate sideways for about 8 months, and you have these kind of bullish structure looking to it. On the Ichimoku cloud on the weekly, it really does illustrate you have a resistance at the cloud, and you break through the cloud with a lot of energy, and it wanted to do a back test. So what it do, went sideways from November 2023 to July 2024 just to touch the cloud. Can you imagine how much energy is being built up over here on this move? Just like the amount of energy that's been building up over here for this move that had gone sideways for about like a year and a half or more. Like, I think this is probably a reaccumulation type picture, and I think most likely after it bounced from the Ichimoku cloud from the bottom over here like it did, most likely the next move is probably going to end up being, some bullish continuation. On the 2-week chart, it doesn't look as good. It's just stuck inside the cloud. But naturally, I think it's going to end up graphing back towards the top of the cloud around here, around like $21 to $22. I think that's probably where it wants to go. Or maybe it just ends up being a little bit lackluster and just enter out through the cloud this way. But I do think that next move is probably going to be some bullish continuation. Just looking at the others chart, just looking at the Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana chart, I think Chainlink by itself with its own right also looks good, but it does look like it wants to do some pretty nice bullish continuation here. Looking at the Boomer support band is still underneath of that. That's a little bit of a thing that's against it, but you also have a little bit of Bollinger Band squeeze over here. So it'd be nice for it to kind of break above the Boomer support band as flip it from resistance to support, and hopefully get back about like $16 or so, maybe even hover around here, maybe even wait for the Bollinger Band to squeeze a little bit harder and turn the Boomer support band flatter before going up. So Chainlink might end up lagging behind a little bit, and that's no big deal, but it can also just pull like a Tesla or some other stock that doesn't care about this Boomer support resistance, just push above it, and then it just end up going sideways for a few weeks, back test it, Bollinger Band squeeze, and it go up a lot higher. That's kind of how I see Chainlink. Now again, this is more of a speculation because it doesn't look as bullish as the other charts, but I cannot really be that bearish for Chainlink over here because it looks like it's been hovering underneath the Boomer support band that's relatively flat, and it wants to look like it wants to do a little bit of a double bottom, and it wants to push back above. That's what it looks like. So we'll see. I think 16 is going to be resistance, 18 or 19 is going to be resistance. I would like to see it flip that 16 resistance, maybe hit like 18 or 19, and then back test it and then go further. That's what I see for Chainlink. Finally, I want to talk about Dogecoin, then I'm going to end this video. I've been accused of being a little bit too long-winded at times. I know I am. I'm sorry. I'm not. Ichimoku. It's hitting some resistance so far for Dogecoin on the monthly chart, but it looks like it wants to reclaim the baseline, the red line over here. It looks like it wants to do that for July, and it just had a big, nice hammered bottom candle over here. So the morphology of this looks great. The volume looks great. It just went sideways on low volume. This whole sell from like 22 cents all the way down to like 9 cents or so has been non-committal. Like, nobody wants to sell Dogecoin, but it's a technical move that needed to happen before the next bullish move. The couple other things too, if you look at a lower time frame, on the 2-week chart, it just looked like it just bounced from the bottom of the Ichimoku cloud here perfectly, and right now again it's starting to hit a little bit of resistance over here at the baseline. The baseline is around 14 cents, 0.26, somewhere around there. I do think that because of the low volume of this downtrend, it's not going to take too much to break about these resistance. And the tank and the conversion line is pointing up, so I doubt that's going to be very strong resistance. Maybe it wants to gravitate back towards the top of the cloud over here around 20 cents. And maybe it wants to do something that's absolutely insane and just breaks out like it did previously. When it tested the bottom of the 2-week Ichimoku cloud, all it takes is just a little bit of volume for it to go berserk. I don't think it's going to end up going berserk like this. I think this cycle is just a lot slower. It is more methodological. It did have a little bit of an Adam and Eve pattern, and this is just a back test of this breakout over here of this Adam and Eve. And so far it's looking like it's back tested, and it looks like it wants to go higher. How much higher, I don't know for sure. I can talk about targets, but that's probably going to be a different video. All I say is that I think Dogecoin is looking bullish on the 2-week time frame. It was also looking bullish on the weekly time frame. Now, on the weekly time frame, it never really touched the Ichimoku cloud. It might end up spending a few weeks sideways here and touch the Ichimoku cloud before going up further, because you're still hitting a lot of these resistance up above, right? But I do think that Dogecoin looks ready in terms of maybe over the next couple of months to go up a lot higher. If you are looking, instead of the Ichimoku, if you look at the Super Ichi cloud, it does look like it already bounced from the Super Ichi cloud and looks like it wants to go higher. On the 2 week, same thing, looks like it bounced from the bottom of the cloud after getting maybe a little bit rejected on the top of the cloud. It looks like it wants to break back out and go higher. That's what Dogecoin looks like to me. I cannot be bearish on Dogecoin just because of this downward move over here for 3 months straight on declining volume, because when you have a downward move on declining volume, the lower it goes, the better the reward or the lessen the risk there is. So I'm happy to have bought over here on this range. I'm happy to have bought down here over here in this range. I was buying all the way from like 14 cents all the way down here to about 9 cents. So I'm happy I did that. Are we out of the waters yet looking at the chart? No, not necessarily. You're still having some resistance here on the Super Ichi, on the Ichimoku. You still end up having a lot more, resistance still, right? So it's not as bullish as Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana, but I cannot be too bearish on this chart based on what I'm looking at, based on the technicals. Anyway, thank you so much for listening to this video. You guys have a great rest of the weekend. Have a good one. Bye.